All right, let's get our Facebook folks in here. Spinning wheels, 1 and 2. Welcome in, welcome in. It is Thursday morning. It's once again time for the Scott and Nick show, the 20th time this week. Good morning, everybody. Scott, are you sick of me yet?
Absolutely not.
Don't lie.
It's a good thing you're easy to get along with. I usually like to say about any group I'm in, I'm like I'm the hard one to deal with. So if you can deal with me, the rest is easy. So Nick, piece of cake, man.
I typically am the peacekeeper or the like come on, let's keep going. It's all good, blah blah blah. But no, it's a lot of fun hanging out and a lot of fun hanging out with everybody in the chat as well. Good morning. This is obviously Broncos for breakfast, and as our usual show here for Scott and I in the mornings, we're live every Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday at 7:30 Mountain Time for your morning drive, for your coffee, or for some of you folks listening to us in the shower. I mean, God, you have your portable devices. God bless you. Hygiene's important. But let's say hello to some people in the chat coming in here. We got Money Moore coming in over on YouTube. He says, good morning. I may or may not have misread the title as super laxative. Well, hopefully we don't have any of that. That's what the Broncos have been the last few seasons. Speaking of, yes, absolutely. The coffee is, thank you, Patrick. Yeah, Patrick came in last night. I don't know if he listens to the morning shows after the fact, but man, thank you so much. I'm about to finish my macadamia nut vanilla. So good. And I'm going to be backpacking this week. I'm going to take another one. I haven't decided which one yet. I'm going to let the wife decide. But
so yeah, good. The Lion Coffee folks, check it out. Like I said, it's not a paid ad. It's just a thank you for taking care of us. Lioncoffee.com. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yes, sir. Jeremy Sean coming in saying good morning. It's been a while since you two have gotten together.
12 hours or so about.
And we text and tweet at each other sometimes as well. So Scott and I are in communication. We got football things to talk about.
We've never actually met face to face.
No, opposite coast, man.
It's like I feel like Nick's one of my best friends these days.
We're hanging out.
We've never actually met face to face. We will though. That'll happen this year.
Yeah, eventually. We got Clee coming in saying, "How about them Rockies?" No idea. Did they win last night? I know the Cardinals
Braves. Braves are on heater again. They play about 500, then they go on a 9-1 run, and they're in the middle of one of those runs right now. So reeling in the Mets. Let's let the Mets and the Dodgers deal with one another in a wild card round. Yeah. Let the winner face off the defending world champions. That sounds fair to me.
That does sound fair. And I'm Cardinals 3.5 games up, 5 games up, something like that, beating up on the Cubs, which is always fun. And I'm actually flying back to St. Louis area Memorial Day weekend because my dad got tickets behind home plate for the Cardinals Cubs. So look for me in that game. I'll be square behind home plate. Yeah, exactly. But we got Chris Jenkins coming in saying, good morning, Broncos family. Good morning to you, Chris. Hope you're doing well. We got our guy Dave Glassman, of course, in the house with the hearts and the stars, I'm sure. I know Dave was running low there, but Dave, I'm just assuming, man. You always are helping us out, so we appreciate you. Mark Coleman coming in, good morning to you. And Clee saying, super laxative coffee, pest Dulcolax. I don't know. Every time I think of laxatives, I think of Dumb and Dumber.
I was going to say, I think that was going in his coffee. Drink up.
Yep.
Drink up.
So good.
Still one of the, I mean, bathroom humor is just funny. One of the hardest I've laughed in my entire life was that scene.
Yeah. It won't flush. God, that's a great movie.
Bastard.
Some of it filmed in Estes Park, Colorado. So a little fun fact, the same hotel lobby that where he's like, we landed on the moon. That part, that's in the Stanley Hotel, which is the one that Stephen King based The Shining off of.
Way.
So good.
Oh, man, you probably, I don't know. It's worth going back and finding Jim Carrey on In Living Color if you haven't seen some of his stuff. I mean, that show was freaking hilarious. It just didn't have the NBC backing, I guess. But, the Wayans brothers, Jim Carrey on their, in their youngest, probably most coked out primes.
Probably.
That it was, God, that show was funny.
Is that the one where he was the fire marshal?
Yes, one of many. The Men on Film just kills me.
Yeah.
Lots. That show was awesome.
I definitely have seen the fire marshal.
Chris says that show was awesome.
Good times. We got Papa Savvy coming in 21 on Twitch, saying good morning, Nick and Scott. Hello. It's been a second since I feel like we've had a Twitch hello. So good morning to you. Hope you're doing well. We got Chris saying, put a replica helmet to my ear like a seashell. I could hear the sounds of winning this season. I love that. That's a lot of fun. Russell Wilson. Let's ride.
Cheers. I hear it.
Good. Greg Smith, good morning, Broncos for breakfast. And we got some extra emojis going this morning with the steak, the eggs, the pancakes, the waffle, and the coffee. God bless. All we need is a little sunshine and we're good to go. Michaela in the house too over on YouTube. Always love to say hello to our Mile High Huddle ladies. Good morning to you. Good morning. Good morning. Mark Schrader in the house. Coming up, man. Been thinking about you, sending good vibes. I know you got your things coming up. I guess you shared it on here, but you can share again if you want. But thinking about you, man, and then hopefully, God, I don't even know. Good vibes. Brad D in the house too. Good morning, Scott, Nick, Dylan from Big Sky Bronco Country up there in Montana. Beautiful. And the Rockies are terrible. They lost 16-4. Okay, well, Chris Jenkins says, "Go Braves." Greg Smith,
was it
Dodgers,
really
baby.
16-4? I think the Braves won 16-4 yesterday. Ironically, 14-2. All right, those even numbers. Once you start getting to double digits, I get confused.
Yeah, no, it's getting up there. So, God, that's baseball's. We're approaching the fun time of baseball season, at least for sorry, Rocky fans, for some of us. Howie freaking Day coming in saying, "Hey fellas, who do you think the Broncos could trade away for draft picks, and who will stay on the practice squad? Wideouts mostly. Okay, this is a good one. I see we got a super chat coming in too, but let's get to this Howie freaking Day first, because it might be stars. Howie supports us sometimes as well. Also, Howie Day is great name. Most likely to be traded away for draft picks. The names that I've heard and makes sense to me is the Broncos seem to have a plethora of level 3 or 4 edge rushers. So I could see them trading away one of those edge rushers. Now, obviously, Nick Benito's been a mixed bag so far in preseason, but you have Malik Reed on the end of his contract, who's a solid contributor, but seems to be fourth in the pecking order. And Jonathan Cooper, who played well last season, seems like a good player, but I mean, how many edge rushers can you possibly keep? And he's also not the special teams contributor that Aaron Patrick is, who again, I keep being told Aaron Patrick, like that seems like a name that the Broncos fans are sleeping on, but the team is not. So those two edge rushers, Malik Reed and Jonathan Cooper, are two that stick out to me as possibly being traded away for draft picks.
I kind of like the wide receiver room, honestly. We had a discussion. Are we overhyping the wide receivers? Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. But by that same token, I think there's good depth. So you might not have the supernova that you're expecting, Cortland Sutton or Jerry Jeudy, to be an all-pro type, but there's talent all the way down through. So, could Seth Williams be moved? Could Kendall Hinton be moved? Tyree Cleveland, Brandon Johnson, becoming a preseason favorite type and then gets flipped for a draft pick. So I think a wide receiver could be in that one too. And that's what Howie says is wideouts mostly. So if someone were to move and then there's some things you just don't know. Like, when those back end guys, it's tough to tell because you don't know what you really don't know what they're worth. I had a couple of moves like that this time last year with a wide receiver and a cornerback. And, they kind of come out of nowhere. So we'll see. But that's where I'm with you, Howie. I'd keep an eye on the wide receivers.
Yeah, as far as practice squad goes, some names that I think I would keep an eye on. You have Jalen Virgil, who just seems like he's knocking on the door there for that position, but I don't know if he's going to make the squad because he seems to be behind Brandon Johnson. Tyree Cleveland's another special teams guy that might make it. I'm curious to see what happens with, the rookie, Luke Wattenberg. He seems to be right on the borderline there. Hopefully he makes it, but I could see him going down. Same with Matt Henningsen being a 6th-round pick. Although right now with how the defensive line is shaping up, he's been like one of the few who have stood out in a positive way. So him, I think Mauga, linebacker, college free agent, they keep keeping him around from USC. He's kept on the roster instead of Joe Schobert. So he seems like a practice squad eligible guys. And then you have, Faion Hicks and DeLarian Turner-Yell. Both of those guys seem like practice squad possible. Pretty much everybody from the 5th round on, besides Montrell Washington, as draft picks, probably could be heading that way. We got David Cromello, $9.99. David D. Crom, thank you so much. Saying it may be the cynical SOB inside me. David, you can be cynical sometimes, but I have a feeling the Broncos might start 2-6. Oh, that sounds. I guess it's possible, but that is the cynical SOB. Thoughts? Also, losing Tyron Smith can be catastrophic for the Cowboys, don't you think? Yeah, Tyron Smith suffered an injury similar to Mekhi Becton. They're going to be putting Tyler Smith, the rookie, over there now, and man, that Cowboys offense is going to be not as good.
Did that happen yesterday, Nick? I hadn't seen that news yet.
The news came out this morning. My phone was
Okay, yeah,
flurrying right before
I
the
hadn't
show.
seen that yet. I was
Yep.
doing some other things and hadn't perused Twitter so much as opposed to checking on, well, Broncos.
Yep. Nope, it just happened. As far as the Broncos starting 2-6, let me pull up the schedule. I just think the Broncos
I've got it
schedule.
in front of me, Nick.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got it in front of me. You start off at Seahawks. If they say, and my thought on this is if there's a 2-6 start, that's what's going to be catastrophic because the season only gets harder. Now we talk about, does this team need time to gel? We've had that discussion, and made all kinds of Magellan jokes. Or am I gelling? You're gelling. We're all gelling. And it comes together. But if you start 2-6, you're not making the playoffs. The schedule, the back end of the schedule is much harder than the front end.
Yeah.
But you look at this and you're like, at Seahawks, okay, my cynicalism is away game. They're up, want to put it on Russell Wilson, but still, that'll be one of the bigger favored teams on the week, pushing 7 points. Texans at home, okay, there's a dub. 49ers at home, that one's close. And I think what I said was I kind of picked in these three right here where it was 49ers, Raiders, Colts. They're all winnable games. Two of them are at home. The 49ers and Colts are at home. And then I think when we went through the schedule, I think I had all three as wins because I think each team will be favored, but I don't think they'll win all three, if that makes sense. Meaning, if I had to pick each game individually, I'd say the Broncos will win this game. But if you have a 75% chance to win, basic statistics, is 0.75 times 0.75 times 0.75, you end up with about a 25% chance to win all three of those games. So it's not going to happen. So one of those is going to be a loss. At Chargers, let's go ahead and just pencil that one in for a loss. Jets, just being cynical. Jets at home, that should be a win. At Jaguars, at Titans. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 to Jaguars. There's no way they're losing to the Jaguars, Jets, Texans, and Seahawks, and then going 2-2 against those guys and then 0-4 against the rest of their schedule. Just not going to happen. No way.
I would say that the floor of the beginning of the season, as long as key contributors stay healthy, always have to have that stupid caveat, but it's football. 4-4. You could have, I think 4-4 is possible, but 2-6, I just don't see. But it's football, man. Crazy things happen. This is a team that's wide variance. It could happen. Benjamin Hayward coming in saying, good morning. Do you guys think the Broncos come in the Super Bowl this year? Going from cynical SOB David to Benjamin. Broncos could win the Super Bowl this year. I'm very much a believer of if you are hot, healthy, and you have the quarterback in the Super Bowl, anything can happen. We've seen it the last decade. Most of the time it's, Tom Brady or a Hall of Fame quarterback, which the Broncos do have. But sometimes it's just, you get in, you're hot, and you're healthy. We've seen the Eagles do it. We've seen, unfortunately, in 2012, the Ravens do it. Broncos, if they get in, defense is playing well, run game, cold weather, ball bounces their way, it can certainly happen. But they have to clear that first hurdle, which is making the playoffs.
Some of the questions you have need to be answered in the awesomely affirmative. Randy Gregory and Brandy. Randy Gregory and Bradley Chubb will have a lot to say to answer this question. If those guys become the Colorado Sack Exchange, you got a chance. You got a chance because I think you've got the quarterback. The offense will be there. Now, will you have enough big plays on defense? Can your defense win games for you? Last year, Fangio's whole philosophy was don't lose the game. So he played the defense played not to lose. This defense has the talent, and I think they're going to have the aggression to play to win some games as well. Yeah. So Nick and I talked a little bit about this week. We've talked about everything from snow cones to puppies and stuff. So we've hit about everything already this week. But most teams that get into the playoffs that are in the final 8 have a quarterback. So the differentiator there for me then becomes, who are your difference makers on defense? Yeah. Who are your guys that can win a game on defense? And right now, for me, the Broncos have 4 of those guys on paper. Pat Surtain, Justin Simmons, Bradley Chubb, Randy Gregory. Yep. That's more than most. So if it's for me, it's not the offense that's going to dictate this. It's going to be the defense.
Yeah, and I'm just going to say X factor on this one. Draymond Jones, maybe a difference maker as well up there. He's He seems like a man on a mission this year, and he's hunting for that contract. Glenn Hare coming in saying, morning, fellas. Either of you make it to the week 3 meet and greet? Scott will be. I shall not. I'm having family come into Seattle. So,
but here's good news.
Yes.
Gary comes in and he said, I will, but you weren't asking me. I'm asking. So if you're going to be there, that's awesome.
That's awesome.
I haven't booked my flight yet. I do have a hotel booked. I'm trying to decide if I want to come in Sunday morning, because leaving from East Coast, I can be there at 9 a.m. without leaving at a crazy hour. That was what was always kind of cool about going skiing in Salt Lake City. It's like I could leave Atlanta and be on the slopes by noon in Park City. That was pretty sweet.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to hear Gary's going to be there. And yes, I'm planning on being there.
God, that should be a great game. I'm excited for you guys. Reese Scott coming in. What's up, MHH? Heading to Colorado this weekend. So stoked. Love Colorado. Beautiful state. Beautiful, beautiful. Love the mountains. Clee saying, did I wake up and Drew Lock is the quarterback again? No, I don't know what's going on there. The Superlatives maybe doing that to you. Dom coming in.
Did I put in the wrong cover on the when I updated the cover? I'm pretty sure I used the Russell Wilson cover on YouTube.
Yeah. It's careful of the Superlatives, man. You don't want that. Dom coming in. Good morning, Nick and Scott in Broncos country. Do you guys think Billy, Randy, and KJ will be ready for week 1? Yes, yes, and yes. I think you might be a little bit limited for Billy and Randy. KJ, I think will be. This is KJ Hamler, not Kareem Jackson. Either way, I think yes, all of them will be ready for week 1, but I don't think it's going to be fully immersed in the season. They're going to be rotational, with the exception of maybe Billy Turner, because he's the offensive line. You don't really typically see rotations on the offensive line, but Randy and KJ, I think dip their toe in the water.
That was one of the each one of those players was asked about yesterday at the press conference, and Nathaniel Hackett had good news, and he is one of the more optimistic coaches. Not just
for now.
We'll see, coming along.
Yeah.
I'm not a doctor. I hear that one a lot. I'm not a doctor, so I can't tell you, but we're hoping so. He was very positive on all of those guys, and said that KJ could actually see time this weekend, which would be spectacular. Billy Turner has plenty of time if he's ready now to go full contact. Plenty of time to get ready. There's this week and a bye. So you basically have 3 full weeks of practice for him. That's plenty of time for a right tackle to be game ready. And then I kind of get the feeling if it was time to go right this minute, Randy Gregory might be ready to go.
Yeah.
So it's getting close. All good things. All good news yesterday on the players that you're asking about their Dom.
Yeah, 100%. Gary Leeds Palmer, GLP with the stars. Thank you so much, Gary. We appreciate you. He says, good morning, Nick and Scott. I would bet against 2-6. Just saying. Go Broncos and let's ride. Yeah, if anybody wants to give me the money line on the Broncos starting 2-6, hit me up at Nick Kendell MHH. That would be awesome odds for myself. I'm not playing in the Super Bowl parade, but I think this is a team that probably at worst is finishing 500. And to finish 500, you have to start the season probably closer, as Brad says. Broncos have to start the season 4-2, or playoffs will be tough. I think 4-2 is way more.
You've heard me say before, Nick, when I hear some of these takes that are just like hot takes for the sake of being hot takes, if a national pundit comes out and wants to say 2-6 on national TV, the standing offer of a year's salary is there. If they start 2-6, year's salary, put your money where your mouth is. Otherwise, don't just say stuff to hear yourself talk and get the reaction. It's dishonest.
Yeah. Although,
otherwise,
content creation, baby.
Woo, I'm not hard to find. I'll put a year's salary on a 2-6 record.
That's I will not. I'm not a betting man like that. Bama X coming in. Good morning, Broncos country. Good to see you, Bama X. We got Benjamin Flores. Morning. Finally remember to get in early. Hell yeah, Ben. Always at the gym at this hour. Go Broncos. Well, hopefully we're pumping you up. Some people really like the hardcore music. I typically listen to adventure podcast or like disaster stuff or football stuff. There's some really good content creators out there in the scheme side of things, which
mine's a little different. Mine's a little angrier and a little faster than that. I was thinking, and for what's the name of the song by Linkin Park? Given Up, I think might be it. It's just that might be the single best cardio song there is. Like if you're riding a bike, especially, it's just got that rhythmic beat to it, and then it's got an angry yell that goes on for like 90 seconds that you need to climb a hill. So
yeah,
I might not listen to us at the gym either, Nick.
I'm typically doing cardio or something, but 1.1, or excuse me, Divine Comedy says 1.1 yard per carry, says the OL room is bad as people thinks this Seahawks offensive line will be. I think the 2 tackles have looked solid in pass protection, but the run game is questionable, and now you have Kenneth Walker's dealing with a hernia. Rashad Penny's going to be out. this is a team that the Broncos, two teams, honestly, we have two teams coming up here where the Broncos front seven run defensive woes should hopefully get ironed out. If these two teams run on you, it should be a, butthole clenching moment for the Broncos this season where it's like, we are in serious bleep if we can't stop the run against these two teams.
Well, let me take a look at this. So on snaps, Miners did get a little bit of time. So because my initial thought on this, Miners, I can't even find Miners on here. Where the hell is Miners? Glasgow. Miners there. Miners took 13 snaps. So I guess it's a good thing that the offensive line that the Broncos plan on throwing out there have only seen 13 snaps in the preseason so far. So we don't know. Again, I've said I'm willing to jump to some conclusions, draw some conclusions of what I've seen. And that one is the interior line depth. The second team interior line needs help. Need another body in there. Yeah. I'm not willing to make a reaction or a judgment or a conclusion on the offense at all. We haven't seen it. We haven't seen the offense.
Divine Comedy is talking about the Seahawks offensive line here, not the Broncos.
Is that what it was? I just read the 1.1 says this OL room is as bad as people think the Seahawks OL will be. So we're at 1.1.
Oh, we're the 1.1.
Broncos. 1.1. So they think it's saying that the Broncos OL is as bad as people think the Seahawks OL is. Well, we haven't seen the OL yet.
Yeah, we haven't seen the running backs.
We've seen Miners for 2 series.
Yeah, and the offensive line, the run game looked as good as it possibly could when Mike Boone was out there in that Buffalo game. He made some things happen. So, the Broncos' offensive line depth is not great considering the injuries as well. That's hurting the team, but I would not be too worried just yet. So, sorry, I misread your comment there, Divine. Scott got me on there. Chase coming in saying, I'm sick of you two already. JK, I'm sick of me too. I'm getting line behind my wife.
One of my favorite lines. It was a funny. I've told you that before from 50 Blind Dates.
Yes,
when he introduces he's kind of your boyfriend, dear. And Adam Sandler says, "Sorry, I'm not better looking."
Yeah, that's a good one. Although, man, how traumatic. Kwame coming in saying, "Let's go Broncos." Good to see you, Kwame. We got a bunch of people saying they're going to the game. Dom's going to be there week 3. Mm-hmm. Glenn saying looking forward to meeting both you guys and Scott and Gary. That'll be great. We also got Rob Bucksbaum coming in saying, good morning, gents. The Go Broncos and let's ride. # Nashville. Great time. We got Kevin Gray. Morning, guys. Any questions about gelling, Kevin? No. Nick and Scott listening to my favorite pod. Man, too nice. We appreciate you, Kevin. That's really, really nice. Albert Knoppers, good morning to you. And Benjamin Howard saying the Denver OL will surprise you this year. This is a good lead into what we're going to get into here today. But first, Kareem Gomez coming in saying, morning, guys. Dominican coffee in my cup. Ooh, that sounds good. And football discussion. Great start to my day off. Heck yeah, Kareem. That sounds like a great time. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. We finally caught up on the chat, and if you have any others, we'll get into it. But Scott and I decided that it's a good, since we've done so many shows. We already covered the press conferences yesterday. Yada yada. I wanted to talk a little bit of superlatives here, just to kind of get a temperature check on the roster this season. So Scott and I, we have the list, but we haven't talked about who each other think it's going to be. So I'm guessing. I don't know if it'll be to the extent where Carl and I always have the same answer to these things, but I'm guessing Scott and I will have that. And there might be a couple moments where we have to pivot. Like I say a player and Scott's like, well, that's who I was going to say. So I'm going to go with blah. But getting into it, Scott, I'll put it up for you first on a tee. The 2022 regular season Broncos MVP. Who's that going to be?
I mean, you're hoping it's going to be Russell Wilson. Yeah. The quarterback gets too much of the credit and too much of the blame. You've got a bona fide Q rating star quarterback coming in. The biggest difference between these two teams is on the sidelines. Mm-hmm. These two teams being this year and last year. On the sidelines and under center. So this team goes from 7-10 to 10-7 or better. A lot of it's going to be on the head coach. A lot of it's going to be on the quarterback. You got to say Russell Wilson should be the MVP of this team.
Yeah.
Definitely offense, defense to change it up a little bit.
Yeah. No, I mean, we have offensive player of the year and defensive player of the year. Typically MVP is just best quarterback these days, which the word is our most valuable player, and the quarterbacks are the most valuable players. I'm going to go with the MVP of the team being Patrick Surtain. I think right now, if I was making the Broncos roster and rating them on Madden without the value aspect in it, just the overall rating for their position, I think the highest rated player I would say would be Patrick Surtain.
had a discussion about that way back in the day. My friend Miller Seyfried, who works over at ESPN now, a guy is a brain surgeon now, Myron Roll. You may remember him. And we were discussing who are we going to put at the very top. And he goes, I don't know that he's the best prospect. I think he's the best talent. And it kind of took me a second for that to click. And he's like, this is exactly what you're talking about. If I'm ranking them based on their Madden rating, he's a 99, but he was a safety. And, I'm like, I can't put a safety as the number one prospect. And that's kind of what you're talking about. If I'm sorting by talent, by their Madden rating, the number one guy is going to be Pat Surtain. That's, then it kind of started making sense for me a little bit.
Yeah. He's, I think, the linchpin of the defense. If he goes down, the defense goes from potential top 10 to probably almost certainly bottom 10, unfortunately. And I think he's in line for a huge season. A year two, typically you see a big jump for the cornerback position. He's only going to be 22 years old this year. You have a defense that's going to be hunting more, hopefully playing with a lead more often. I think teams are going to either stop throwing at him or throw at him, and he's going to get some turnover production. So I'm really excited to see what Patrick Surtain can do this season, and see if he even starts to get the Jalen Ramsey treatment, not from opposing offenses, but from Evero, who they were moving around. He was in the slot, he was outside, and essentially they would play him, even though it's match quarters, zone coverage. He's essentially an island cornerback. They rotate the coverage elsewhere with the single high, with the two high pre-snap.
The old Deion Sanders line. I've got this guy. I circle him. The rest of y'all do your thing. No, and what you're talking about is just moving them around. You see that a lot with edge rushers. Lining them up all over the place, so you can't really scheme where he's going to line up every single time. Do that with a defensive back too. With that, make sure that I know that, okay, Surtain's going to be on this guy, so I'm going to run a play that's going to get this side of the field open. Oh crap, I came out. Now they're over here. I need audible. And so yes, moving them around and using them as that wild card on defense makes a lot of sense.
I'm really curious to see how they use him, especially with Quan Williams being such a pure guy. But leading into it, how much they can move Surtain is probably going to depend on this question. With Ojemudia being out, do you think that puts even more strain on the defense? Would cornerback be more important than the defensive line? I think they're different kind of questions. Cornerback, we've seen guys who are going to be getting a lot of snaps this year, and they have not looked, at least in theory, and they have not looked amazing. Damari Mathis started off camp pretty hot, has kind of fallen back a bit. Ojemudia, a lot of OTA hype, now dislocated elbow, has not looked good in the preseason games. Those guys are in line for snaps this year, so that is concerning. Defensive line, it's concerning, but like McTelvin Najim, Jonathan Harris, are those guys even going to make the team? The way they're playing, I hope not. So you have four guys that we saw Deshaun Williams for like 10 snaps or something, but our top four guys, you haven't even hardly seen. So different kind of questions right now for where we're at. We just there's too many question marks because we don't have the data or the reps from the defensive line.
As far as strain on the defense, I look at that kind of holistically, and when I think defensive line, I think pass rush. So Manuel, my answer to this is going to be something I've said for, longer than Nick's been alive, is the best defensive back is a quarterback on his ass. So the edge is going to be more important to me than the corner at all times. And if Randy Gregory, if Baron Browning, if Bradley Chubb are making that quarterback uncomfortable in the pocket and passing situations, I'm not nearly as worried about the backside of the defense.
Yep, absolutely. Most underrated team in the AFC, for me, it's got to be the Tennessee Titans. They were the number one seed in the AFC last year, and I feel like nobody's talking about them. Nobody believes them. I don't believe in them, but that almost has to make them the underrated team. Derrick Henry was injured; he's going to be back. Vrabel's got that defense humming. I like a lot of their pieces on defense. AFC South is not very good. So I feel like it's got to be the Titans.
That's a good question, because I was thinking maybe the Colts. I'm scrolling down, so hopefully it doesn't mess with my. The Titans are coming in at 11 in the power rankings for ESPN right now, which is one spot above the Broncos. That's the highest I've really seen the Titans.
Yeah.
The Colts coming in at 14. Most people have the Colts winning that division. Going down a little bit, the Patriots at 16 is probably a little bit scary. Maybe I'm falling into the old trap, that old bias. It's where, never count them out. You need a steak in holy water to finish off Bill Belichick, but don't count those guys out. Dolphins at 19, Steelers at 22. You know, how many losing seasons has Tomlin had over at Pittsburgh? And I know, but they seem to scrape it together too.
Yeah.
So there's a couple decent candidates in the AFC. So
Yeah.
Titans are getting completely disrespected. We'll see. Indianapolis Colts are still meh, middle of the pack. I'll bet on Mike Tomlin and Bill Belichick all the time, and they're both bottom half teams right now in power rankings.
Yeah. Yep. No, those are some good calls. Just immediately, I feel like the Titans have almost zero hype, and they were the 1 seed last year, so they deserve it. Which players are playing for a new contract this offseason from Kareem? The ones that stand out to me: Draymond Jones, Dalton Reisner, and Bradley Chubb. I'm sure there's a few others, but those seem to be the ringers in that regard. I guess Russell Wilson to some extent too, but he still has more years of control.
So real quick before we move on to the next one, I just saw, who is it from? It says, Scott, can we get you in a Broncos? Or here's from Glenn. Glenn's going to be there too. Scott, can we get you in a Broncos jersey for the game? No, I don't wear football jerseys. I'll wear just because they're big and baggy. I'll wear a soccer kit just because they look like regular shirts for the most part. But I did see, and hopefully it'll start to cool off in late September. I did ask for my anniversary. There's a Chelsea hoodie that is navy blue with orange trim. I'm like, that was interesting. My wife must have some sort of like masquerade tennis thing going on because she just ran by in some outfit that made me double take. Hello. Speaking of gifts, anyway, it's navy blue hoodie with orange trim, with Broncos orange trim, and it's a Chelsea hoodie. I'm like, I gotta have that. That's what I gotta wear to these Broncos games. Either way, though, I've got enough Auburn stuff that doesn't have an Auburn logo on it that I can show up in orange and blue pretty easy.
Yeah, true that. War Eagle, baby. Michael Ronquillo coming in saying, good morning, Broncos country. Let's ride and go Broncos. Moving on to our next topic here. We have the offensive player of the year. So you already named Russell Wilson. I'm going to give this to you again. But offensive player of the year, are you going to name Russell Wilson again, or is there somebody else stand out?
No, because you need to go somebody else. That's why it's two separate awards. I swear that's why they have a different award for that, just because it's like, listen, we can't name the quarterback every single time. We got to be able to give it to somebody else. So I'm going with Chris here. He's got my thoughts. Offensive player of the year, Pookie would be my offensive MVP. And again, I think you're talking 1,200 yards, 1,400 yards from scrimmage, and should get in the end zone a little bit more often. So if you're talking 1,400 to 1,500 yards from scrimmage with 10 touchdowns, there's my offensive MVP. He should lead the team in yards from scrimmage this year. Is kind of my prediction on this. I just think in the running game, there's going to be less mouths to feed. It's going to be Pookie 1, Melvin Gordon 2, as opposed to the passing game where it's going to be Pookie and Melvin also, and then everybody else in there too. Sutton, Hamler, Okwebanon possibly,
Judy,
Dulcich, Judy. We can go on and on and on and on. I'm going with a running back.
Well, I didn't list Russell Wilson as my MVP, so I'll go with him as the offensive player here. Kind of a cop-out, but I think Sutton's going to be the go-to guy in the offense. I just do. I think he's the talented fit. He's a downfield player, and with Russell Wilson's moon balls that he likes to throw, what makes Cortland Sutton, many things that make Cortland Sutton great, but one of the things that makes him great is he's plays like a basketball player. He's an above-the-rim kind of attacker of the football when he's at his best, and I think you're going to have a lot of opportunities for that this year. He's not like the 4-4 guy straight line, but he's a long strider, and he's very quick. So you double move or anything like that, and then if he has even just an inch of separation, Russ is going to give him a chance, and he's going to win most jump balls. So I think Sutton's going to be up there. Brad D coming in saying, who's the tight end at midseason? All of them. I think it's going to be very much a committee approach at tight end this season. I think the Broncos would love Dulcich to get healthy, but man, how much time he's missed this year. I wouldn't be surprised if we hardly saw him at all.
Let's use this as a segue to the next category. I'll serve it up to you first. Who's your biggest letdown of camp so far?
The biggest letdown. This will be the biggest letdown for the season for me.
And for me, it's what you see at camp is kind of leading into it for me.
Biggest letdown this season for me. I think, God, nobody put this out there for him, but I think it's going to be Kareem Jackson. I think Kareem Jackson's approaching the age where you see the drop off happen.
Sell by date.
Yep, and not playing very much. I thought you started to see it last season as well. And I know that he brings a lot of hype. He definitely talks about himself. He's a good hitter, but I'm worried about the coverage aspect of him. And I think teams are going to the Broncos are going to play as many defensive backs as they're talking about right now. Opposing offenses are going to try to isolate one defensive back in space and in coverage. I think that guy's Kareem Jackson out there. So he's the one I think is going to be a letdown this year. And somebody don't clip this and send it to him because he will kill me. He is a scary man.
You've heard me talk about the Skinnedy jinx. It's a long list, and it's very powerful. So I'm going to use this in his favor. This is the best thing I can do for this guy, Albert Okwuegbunam. Right now, I thought when everybody started talking pre-draft, talking during free agency, basically as soon as the move was made to send Noah Fant off, Broncos need a tight end. Broncos need a tight end. Broncos need a tight end. I'm like, well, they've got one. Albert Okwuegbunam is a very gifted athlete who can be a big weapon over the middle, in the seams, in the defensive backfield, that he should have a breakout season. This is your chance. And we haven't seen that. And I mentioned that Nathaniel Hackett's a pretty optimistic guy. So one of the few guys that he's pulling the reins on when he's talking about, you mentioned player X, and it's, oh, we love him working hard. It's a lot of gushing cliches. And then with Okwuegbunam, it's pumping the brakes a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully that's some tough love, and that's what he needs. But you've heard me say before, Nick, that sometimes announcers, pundits, and everybody are the harshest on the players that made them look bad. So I've been talking up Okwuegbunam, and he hasn't stepped up yet. So now I'm looking down like, all right, come on, Alberto, you're making me look bad here. Step up. So the best thing I could do for him is to put the reverse jinx and say, my disappointment right now for this season is Alberto.
Yeah. And we got Ty coming in saying, no, not Kareem. He's one of my favorites. Yeah, I mean, hopefully nobody's a letdown. I just figured that was one. Also, I was going for one there that not a lot of people have talked about. He's been kind of out of sight, out of mind this offseason. And I just feel like the secondary is talented enough. Of the starters, somebody's going to be isolated and picked on. And Jackson's play, I thought, dropped from 2020 to 2021, brought him back again 2022. Just the trend there kind of concerns me. But you have depth. I mean, maybe Kareem Jackson gets displaced by PJ Locker, Caden Stearns, and he becomes a backup safety rotational, which might fit him better.
All right. So in this NFL Power Rankings article that came out, they did someone that was on the hot seat for every team. So I'm going to lead back into this by asking you the question: if you have a letdown, you have to have high expectations. Who's got the highest expectations on this team right now?
It's Russell Wilson.
Yep. Absolutely. He's really got, you can always, he's everything I thought he was, and it can just reach euphoria. But it's almost like he's got nowhere to go but down right now, So if he's not, 35 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 12 wins, it's almost a little bit of a letdown. I think that's a little unfair. The other part of that is the bar has been set so low that going in, that whatever we're going to see is going to be improvement, and we need to think of it that way. Gary Lees Palmer says, if the Titans are being disrespected, we must be also. The Titans have about 35 wins in the last 3 years, though, is the difference. They haven't really done anything. Weren't they the number 1 seed last year?
Yep.
Going in. So it's like not a lot has changed other than they didn't get it done in the playoffs, and all of a sudden they've gone from 12-5 or 13-4, whatever they were, to 8-9. Why? What has changed so much? Whereas the Broncos are getting a bump. They're going from 25 in the league to 14. So, I don't quite see it that way, just because the Titans have proven it a lot more over the last 3 years.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Coming through, we got Tyler saying, don't you remember that?
Real quick on Mark coming. It says, thank you, Nick and Scott and Broncos country, coming up with some big stars. Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Appreciate you being here. Look forward to seeing you hopefully one day soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark, feel better. And Tyler coming in saying, don't you remember the hit on Juju from Kareem? I do remember the hit, but I remember Vontaze Burfict.
He does. That's why he's scared this is going to get back to him.
God, yeah. He's a scary man. And I love having him on the defense. I just think he's got a chance to be a letdown this year. Definitely, I think a good call, though, on Russell Wilson being a one that, given how high his expectations are, if he doesn't come in and, play Mile High Messiah, some people are going to be let down. So it's possible. So we'll see how it plays out this year. Moving on here, we got the biggest surprise, positive surprise. I'm going to go Josie Jewell. I think a lot of people are really sleeping on Josie. Again, I love my Iowa hat right behind me there, but he's a really good linebacker and a solid player. He's limited, but he's valuable in the instincts, the cerebral area, solid tackler, and an underrated athlete. Everybody keeps talking about him being this poor athlete. I think he was like 97th percentile 3-cone, had an incredible 20-yard shuttle, and I think his 10-yard split was in like the 80th percentile too. Those I'm more concerned about coming out. I was more concerned about Josie Jewell's size than I was his overall athleticism, because there's like one linebacker in football I trust in space against, slot receivers and tight ends. So Josie, I think he's underrated, was playing great last year before injury. I think he's in for a big year.
This is a hard one, honestly, just because, we dissect it to the level that, and anybody on that's watching the show, for the most part, you're pretty hardcore fans. If I say, I kind of have to step away from this and take a look at a national perspective and say, who's going to break out on a national level? Because, if KJ Hamler has a good season, is that a real surprise? I mean, we've been talking about him for 6 months. I mean, but it would be, on a national scale, no one's talking about KJ Hamler.
Yeah.
And frankly, no one's really talking about Courtland Sutton, since coming back. So, I could say the surprise breakout player of the year, the big surprise on a national level, could be Courtland Sutton. And this crowd might say, well, Scott, that's ridiculous. We know Courtland Sutton's awesome. Yeah, but nobody else does. That's kind of the point. People don't realize how good he can be. If he can get back to the track that he was on 2 years ago, you've got one of the top wide receivers in the game. I mean, 1,300 yards, was that his rookie year or second year?
I think it was his second year.
His second year in the league before he hurt his knee with a bevy of quarterbacks that aren't that good. I mean, this guy was on it. He was on track. He's fallen off the map. Yep. You say Bradley Chubb, you say Randy Gregory. Well, Scott, they just spent a ton of money on him. Yeah, but Randy Gregory's career high in sacks is like 6.
Yeah.
If he plays 16 games, 17 games, and ends up with 15 sacks this year, is that a surprise, or is that what we're expecting? Again, so this one feels a little harder for me. Surprise, 30 games, 25 sacks from Chubb and Gregory. Is that a surprise?
35? Yeah, I would say that would be a big time surprise.
If you say, no, I said 30 games.
30 games. Okay.
Yeah, 30 games. So they're each, between the two of them. I gave them one off basically.
Okay.
And then they end up getting 20, 25 sacks.
That would be somewhat surprising, just because the amount of games.
If you go and look at, they say, look at the back of their baseball cards, that's who they are. Well, if I do that, Randy Gregory is way overpaid.
Yeah.
Way overpaid. Give the money to Malik Reed. So if he comes out and gets double-digit sacks, it feels like that's what we're expecting. But it would still be kind of to everybody else, it'd be a surprise. Wow, he finally put it together. All that talent, all of that we've been talking about, he finally put it together. He's getting paid that way. So again, that one's a tough one for me. The surprise, Montreal Washington becoming a legitimate weapon in the passing game. From where we started from the draft to that happening would be a big surprise. Big surprise. We've been talking about it so much now the last 3 weeks. It doesn't sound that surprising.
Yeah.
But Montreal Washington.
So he's your biggest surprise this year? Okay, biggest
those
letdown.
Those are several. Like I said, it's a tough one because none of those sound all that surprising.
Yeah.
To this crowd.
Yeah. I think I'm going to put it in for you. Biggest surprise is the edge rushers playing healthy. It's just staying healthy and being big contributors.
Basically, but again, you expect them to be healthy, right? I mean, that's kind of your job.
I expect them to miss 6 games combined. I think that's where I'm at.
The two edge rushers combining for 30 games and 20 plus sacks.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and the good one here from Peter saying, surprise, Broncos have a top 5 special teams in the NFL this year. That's a good one. I didn't even think about that.
That's a really good one.
Moving forward here, X Factor. I'm going to go with the X factor here. I'll keep it short because we're already at 45 minutes, but there's a large slice of the pie with Tim Patrick going down, and KJ Hamler has speed that nobody else on this team has. I was really excited to see what he could do from the slot last season. Now he's got a quarterback that I think better fits his skill. We've seen how good Doug Baldwin was been with Russell Wilson. We've seen how good Tyler Lockett has been. I think there's definitely a role for KJ Hamler being an explosive weapon in this team and definitely an X factor. You need to get explosive plays in the pass game. He's as explosive as it gets in the pass game in the AFC West right now, honestly.
For me, an X factor, Lloyd Cushenberry, center, right there in the middle of your offense on the offensive line. There's been a lot of talk as if this is done. The center position is fixed, solved, done. Is it? Is it? That's what we need to know. The X factor is, when I think of X factor, it's floor and ceiling. The variance level in there becomes the X factor. And right now, if the center position is handled, but right now, where would you put Lloyd Cushenberry amongst centers for the last 2 seasons among 32 teams?
28.
Yeah, bottom 5.
Yeah.
Okay, bottom 5. So going up and saying we've got a championship caliber center, not necessarily that he has to be the reason we're in the Super Bowl. We're not talking Alex Mack here, but that he is capable of holding his own on a team that has championship aspirations. That's a big leap, Nick. That's a big leap. It's taken some mental gymnastics to make that leap.
Yeah.
And is he ready to do it? So, we hem and haw over the right tackle position, but the center position isn't done yet.
No, not at all. Elliot D coming in saying, who are your favorite all-time NFL players? I love Shannon Sharp. Always have loved Shannon Sharp. Wore 84 in high school tight end because Shannon was my boy. Von Miller, way up there. I still got his, what are those called? Pogs? I don't even know. My buddy got me the little big head things. And I took it out of the box like an idiot, I guess. I don't know. I'm not a collector of things like that, except hats, I guess, and hiking gear. The Peyton Manning, I absolutely adore Peyton Manning. And then I got to get a little bit biased here. Bob Sanders, Dallas Clark, some of those. I'm trying to lean non-Broncos here, but like Hawkeyes that excelled in the NFL. Bob Sanders actually married my next door neighbor, so I got to meet him a lot. He's triplets. He's in a gated community in San Diego now. He's doing well. Short career, but man, 2015 Defensive Player of the Year, good dude. Although I was like taller than him in 10th grade, but he was just a thing of muscle. It was unbelievable to stand next to him.
Tony Dorsett was my first favorite NFL player. I was I think I did ages 7 to 17 in the 80s. There were a lot. The Atlanta Falcons here had a lot of people were moving to the area from all over the country, which hasn't really changed. The Falcons had one winning season in the 80s, and that was 1980. So there were a lot of other teams, fans around here, and everybody had another team. The Cowboys were very popular. They were always on TV with the Raiders here in Atlanta. And Tony Dorsett, the running back, was a featured position, and he was a very good one, and those silver helmets were very cool. And then my favorite Falcon of all time is Jesse Tuggle, and there's not a close second. Undrafted free agent, Valdosta State, has an argument for being in the Pro Bowl, in the Hall of Fame, for goodness sakes, for the things that he's accomplished. And just one, I've used him as an example. And I actually gave a speech in front of 400 kids, was telling them about, don't let anybody tell you no. Here's Jesse Tuggle. He's about this tall, played in the league for about this. And it turned out Jesse was actually in the crowd that day and came up to me afterwards, which was pretty cool. So, lots of guys. I feel like when I start thinking of my favorite players, though, I feel like I start going back to the college game, Nick. I'm not sure why. Maybe it just feels more organic and a little less, I've gotten to the point now where it's like I don't even think of them as franchise players. I think of them as NFL players. But the easy one for me, Tony Dorsett. He was my first favorite player of all time.
All right. Well, shout out to those guys. Some names. Those are cool that Tuttle was in the crowd for you. That's
yeah. I mean, the next guy that comes to mind is Mike Singletary. I like the linebackers, Lawrence Taylor.
Yeah.
Those weren't my favorite guys. Those are some of my favorite guys to watch.
Yeah.
To watch play the game. So
Yeah.
There you have it.
Completely. Also, unfortunately, really enjoy Chris Jones coming out of Mississippi State. I adored his tape, and then going to the Chiefs broke my heart. Thank you guys, and have a great day, gents. You too, Elliot. Have a good one. We got DeAndre coming in saying, "Good morning, boys. First 8 games, Broncos could go 6-2, 7-1, 5-3. What do you think?" I'd put it at 5.5. 5.5 wins. That's over under there. Hopefully, that's about how it goes.
That's solid because you think 6-2 or 5-3 should be where you're coming out of there.
Yep. That's exactly it. Okay, keep going here. Tone setter. I think that after could have gone with a number of players here on this one. Obviously, there's some offensive ones. Javonte Williams definitely a tone setter. Quinn Miners could be a tone setter for the run game in the offensive line. But after seeing the combined joint practice of the Cowboys and the Broncos, Draymond Jones wants the smoke, man. He is a dog, and I think he is a tone setter on this team. He is another scary guy. He'll bite your head off. I think that he is definitely a tone setter, not only for the defense, but could be one for the entire team this season. This defense is definitely wants to fight. I think there's much more bullies on that side of the ball than we're even giving credit right now.
That's a good one. Randy Gregory and Bradley Chubb again. I keep coming back to the edge for a reason, because if those guys are good, your defense is going to be good. But I feel like this is Justin Simmons' team. I feel like it's his team, it's his defense, his leadership. Again, he can be the leader, and it could still be Draymond Jones setting the tone. Setting the tone for sure. On offense, that's easy. It's Russell Wilson. He's gotten this whole team by the reins, and he's the one that's leading them. On this one, Clee comes in and says Warrick Dunn. Lots of guys mentioning their favorite players of all time. Warrick Dunn is one of my favorite human beings of all time, without a doubt. The stuff that he's done off the field with and he started doing that right away coming out of Florida State. If you don't know much about Warrick Dunn's built about 80 houses and donated 80 houses for single mothers in the area and around the area in the South, like South Florida or Tallahassee, I think is where he was doing a lot of that stuff. But one of the true good people in this world.
Yeah, that's a good person. I absolutely have heard about that. And had a pretty good career there as well, out there in Atlanta and Tampa.
Yep.
So absolutely. Let's keep it going here. We got the most important game. I mean, I guess the most important game for me, I'm just going to say Kansas City at home. Broncos got to get the monkey off their back. That might seem like an easy one. All the division games, though, man, you cannot let those games slip. You got to get that +1 on the teams in the division.
Which is why, I was thinking, the most important game, the easy one in that one is the first one.
The next one.
You got to beat the Seahawks.
Yeah.
It's like, if you can use that chip to say, I can definitely win one, you might say the Chiefs. But the Chiefs, that for most important game, you don't face the Chiefs till late.
Yeah.
That one's not for a while. I almost look at the most important game, taking the first game out of it. You need that one. But at the Raiders, that first division game, you look at the schedule, you're at Seahawks, Texans at home, 49ers at home, at Raiders, first division game, tone setter. I'm saying in the early slate for sure that at Raiders game is a big one.
No. Yeah, no, absolutely. That's especially because the Broncos haven't won at the Raiders since, Peyton Manning. It might have been since 2015.
Who's on the other sideline?
Yeah, Josh McDaniels.
That's a big one.
You need that one. Yep. Good call. Broncos haven't beaten the Kansas City Chiefs since week 2, 2015. They need to get that monkey off their back. It's bad.
Yeah, I just looked at that one. I mean, I can't tell from this schedule what week that is, but it takes a while for me to count games.
Yeah.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's the 13th game of the season before you see the Chiefs.
You hope it's the most important game then, because that means you led up to it being wins and stuff.
You're hoping you're sitting there at 10-2.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm at 10-2, and this one's like, okay, we needed it's where it doesn't really matter as much.
Yeah. Best unit on the team here. I think this is an easy one for me. I'm going to go with the running backs. I think Scott's not the opinion of keeping Mike Boone for his price, but I think Mike Boone could be a number 2 on a lot of teams. He's a good special teams contributor. I think Melvin Gordon is extremely good. I feel bad for him for the way the dynamics have played out for his relationship with the fan base. He's underrated, and the hate on him is really unwarranted. And Javonte Williams, boomer bust, but man, what a fun player this year. I think the Broncos' best unit is the running back room.
And remember, when you talk about Mike Boone in the contract, as far as you say, not a proponent of keeping him, that's not necessarily true. Because I asked a question, there were a lot of questions about Melvin Gordon and his contract, and I ask you, who did you not get because you paid Melvin Gordon too much? The Broncos were sitting on a ton of open cap space last year. Money wasn't really the issue. Yeah. It was spending the money in the right places or saving it. So is Mike Boone keeping you from signing somebody else right now? No.
Probably not.
I get a little annoyed at the Mike Boone hype when the guy's had like 5 offensive touches in his career. It's like it's that backup quarterback syndrome. Well, we haven't seen him and he was brought in, so he must be good. Well, all right. Well, show me. And you see flashes of it. Okay. But and the guy is going to be, fresher than spring daisies because he doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
And he gets paid well for it. We should all be so lucky.
Yeah.
Strongest unit, if outside of running back position, I'll still go wide receivers is a pretty solid group. Edge rushers should be really good. And despite the worrying about the depth at corner, most teams don't have corners as good as you do. They just don't. So the cornerback unit is still pretty solid too, but I'm going to go not edge. I like the depth of the wide receiver group. You can throw 5 or 6 wide receivers out there and not miss.
Yeah.
We talked about are we overhyping the top? Maybe, but the bottom doesn't get enough credit as well. So there's not a huge drop off. The depth of the wide receiver, the depth and talent of the wide receiver group is very, very solid.
Yeah, absolutely. So now the worst unit. This one seems easy for me also. It's tight end room. Alberto Cuevanam out there, your starter, playing full snaps because they don't trust him in the run blocking game. Dulcich not out there. Andrew Beck is, I wouldn't even say he's a jack of all trades. Maybe he's a 7 of hearts or something. And you got Tomlinson and Sauber at the Erics, who are limited as well. So if there's any position I think on the team to be weak at, it's probably the tight end. But definitely I would say the worst unit on the team.
If I'm looking at starters, do you say inside linebackers?
You could.
And is Justin Simmons, because who'd you mention one of the guys that scares you, he might be out there a lot, is Kareem Jackson. Is Justin Simmons good enough to make up for the fact that you think Kareem Jackson's a negative at safety?
I don't think he's a negative. I think he just the chance to let down. But I think you have depth behind them that I'm excited about that could fill in and provide serviceable play in Stearns, Locke.
Yeah, PJ Locke has really stepped up. Caden Stearns has leveled off a little bit, and PJ Locke has stepped up. Jamar Johnson wasn't long for this world.
No.
That he was already set up. But yeah, there does seem to be some good depth there. Again, there's not the starting defensive front looks good. The offensive line still big question marks for me, man. I'm going to say people say depth. I hear that in the conversations here about depth on the offensive line. I'm not worried about the depth. I'm worried about the starters.
Yeah.
I'm worried about Dalton Reisner. I'm worried about Lloyd Cushenberry. I'm worried about Billy Turner.
Yep.
So I'm going to say OL, man.
Yep. I think the OL is low ceiling, high floor is how I see it right now. But just which are the guys that can really take giant steps forward that could make the unit better? I think it's going to be outside the offensive line that makes the unit look better on paper.
What was the recurring theme we used last year about the trench play of the Denver Broncos?
Getting bullied, getting beat up.
Yep. Bullied. What's changed on the OL?
The scheme.
The scheme.
Yeah.
What do we say about X's and O's and Jimmys and Joes?
Yep. It's
the Jimmys and Joes haven't changed a whole hell of a lot.
No. Yeah.
You know? So you're expecting those guys to be better scheme fits, but that's unproven. That's unproven. Dalton Reisner was not great last year. Garrett Bowles is solid. He's probably overpaid for what he is, but okay, left tackle, he's not a problem. Right tackle is a concern. Center is a concern. Left guard is a concern.
Yep.
And Miners is a second-year guy who could do some good things, but also isn't necessarily I can plug him in and not worry about that position anymore. He's still going to have his mistakes. He's still going to get beaten on speed and lateral movement and stuff. But the OL for starting unit is still concerning to me.
Yeah. Nope, definitely concerned. So we got $20 coming in from John Clay saying, "Morning, gents. I'd like to remind my fellow citizens of Broncos country that we are in a much better condition than we were 1 year ago. Be calm and just enjoy having a stronger, more hopeful team. Enjoy the games. Hope's not going to die as soon as the team takes the field like it has the last few years. We're going to be playing some meaningful games late. So thank you, John, for getting us on track there. It's definitely not all doom or gloom, but excited for the year."
Yeah, and John, to your point, I'm going to reiterate this point. All of the things that we're talking about are concerns. Were concerns last year. There were more concerns last year that have been addressed, overwhelmingly positive. Quarterback, that's a big one.
Yep.
That's a big one. We had concerns about the quarterback position. That was a big one. Humongous upgrade. Edge position, the pass rush, big time. As far as Randy Gregory coming in and being healthy is a humongous upgrade. Coming in over, Bradley Chubb coming back healthy. Nick Bonito could be a designated pass rusher. Baron Browning looks great there. Josie Jewell is coming back at the inside linebacker and does a lot of unsung things to make this defense better. Yep. Patrick Surtain taking a step up. The wide receiver room, getting KJ Hamler back. Losing Patrick is not a benefit for sure. But getting KJ Hamler back and Jerry Jeudy taking a step up and working with an adult in the room, not only at quarterback, but as your offensive coordinator and head coach as well. So yes, this is relative, John. We're talking about concerns. Now we're talking about concerns of what's going to keep this team from achieving its highest goals, not can they finish 500. Yeah. So yeah, it's all relative. Thank you.
And I said it a few times last year. I'm a quarterback nihilist or a football nihilist with the quarterback position. If you don't have the quarterback, nothing else matters. It's a skip function, right? Or it's like, do you have the quarterback? That's good enough. No, done. Survey's over. Like, sorry, thank you for playing. We're gonna move on. So that's where the Broncos have been this year. You do have the quarterback. Now it gets to offensive line, pass catchers, pass rush coverage, and that's what we've been talking about here all offseason, which is so much more enjoyable.
It doesn't matter what else is going on with the car if it ain't got no gas in it.
Yep.
Now it's like, okay, we got gas in the car. Now the engine, what about this engine? Is the engine good enough? The tires, okay, good tread on the tires, good PSI.
Yep.
Gas in the engine, you need gas in the tank first, or a good charge on your battery. That's starting to head that way too.
They didn't even have a freaking driver. Let's put it that way.
You don't need those anymore.
Yeah,
you need power before you need anything else, or at least gravity.
Yeah. No, yeah. Keep moving forward here. We got a few more. Most overrated player on the Broncos. This one's gonna hurt me a tad. But right now I'm gonna say it's gonna be Javonte Williams. I think people are crowning Javonte Williams as this like next face of the NFL at the running back position. He's being taken like in the top 5 in fantasy drafts right now. I think he's going to be in for more of a split carry this season, and he's got to become a much more consistent runner. Last year, he was running to the offensive line a lot of boomer bust runs, a lot of stuffs as well. Can't have that. You got to stay on schedule. So I think it hurts me to say, because I like Javonte Williams a lot, but I think he's a little bit overrated just with how much people are trying to crown him as like this top 5, top 6 running back in the NFL already.
Again, some of that with fantasy numbers comes with opportunity, though.
Yeah.
If you look at the numbers, Boone and Javonte were like 9 and 10 last year, like back to back. They weren't far off as far as production goes. So if you can take some of those numbers, plus we expect at least 10% more offensive plays. Mm-hmm. They were bottom 5 in offensive plays last year. There's another 9 plays per game in that offense, just based on being higher tempo and more efficient. That just he could be the same guy and just get more opportunities would put him up in that neighborhood. So we'll see. Oh, overrated. Again, we're talking about Dalton Reisner and Lloyd Cushenberry as if the positions have been fixed. And I mentioned, Garrett Bowles as being okay. So if I look at the paychecks, Garrett Bowles is being paid like a top 2 or 3 offensive tackle, and he hasn't played at that level. I can almost put the unit. We are overrating the offensive line right now.
Yep.
As a unit. We are overestimating. We are just taking, again, I've used this phrase earlier, making the leap, mental gymnastics, that the same guys are going to improve that much based on coaching and scheme. I'm not willing to make that leap just yet. I got to see it.
Yeah, that's fair. That's super fair. Few more here. Most underrated player. I said Javonte overrated. I'm going to say Melvin Gordon underrated. People are wanting to give Javonte the ball. Seems like the coaching staff is as well. I think Melvin Gordon is still a really talented player, one that you don't want to overlook, and going to be a big part of the offense this year. I think he's the better outside zone runner. I think he's got better vision. I think he's the better pass catcher. So that all leads me to say Melvin Gordon's still a big part of the offense and underrated on the whole.
All right, you ready for this one?
Yep.
Most underrated player. People like to say Josie Jewell. That one, I'm not going to say that one. I'm going to say Jerry Jeudy. I'm going to go with another double J. Almost 900 yards as a rookie on a lot of targets, to be fair. Battled through an injury with 500 yards last year. The kid is 23 years old. He is still a kid.
Yeah.
He's going into his third year where a lot of players are just getting drafted that are considerably older than him. And I said adult in the room. I said it twice. Coaching staff, quarterback. He needs some of that. Jerry Jeudy's ready for a breakout year. He gets as much hate as anybody gets in Broncos country from within. And he's ready for a breakout year.
God, you hope so. I'm definitely maybe you can categorize me as a hater, but I am very much a seeing is believing guy, and he's not lived up to it, especially compared to the guys who were drafted around him. CeeDee Lamb going right after him, the likes of Justin Jefferson.
Switch those guys out, though, and how much different is it? I like to think of it that way. If CeeDee Lamb's in Denver and Jerry Jeudy is in Dallas, how much different is the conversation?
I think it's still pretty different. I think Judy's so
pretty
far
same,
shown.
Is what you mean? You think the conversation's still the same? CeeDee Lamb is still considerably better.
I think so. I think Judy's going to have better opportunities in Dallas, but Judy's not been available, and there's been issues with drops and physicality and maturity.
Yeah, maturity.
And you haven't heard that with CeeDee.
How old is CeeDee Lamb? I want to find that out real quick.
And then you have Justin Jefferson, who's arguably the
dunk on. I like the dunk on Calvin Ridley. They're within like a week of each other. So what's that say? April 8th for CeeDee Lamb and birthday April 24th. They're 2 weeks apart.
And then you have
2 weeks apart in age. So again, some of that is maturity. It comes earlier to some guys than others. And Jerry Jeudy, I think it's time. We'll see.
And then you have Justin Jefferson, who might be the second best wide receiver, or the best wide receiver in football already, or one of the best emerging ones. 23 years old, June 16, 1999. So
he's young too. He just turned 23. So they're all young guys. All young guys. Yep.
So Jerry Jeudy, step up. My patience has grown thin. It's now or never for me on him.
It is. This is it. This is it. But it's who has the potential that, when we talk about these guys that you say we talk about them so much, it's hard to say anybody's underrated. Just like it's hard to say anybody's a surprise. We cover these guys 7 days a week talking about them on these pods. We write about them and everything. Yes, my dog is walking out. Click, clack, click, clack. I usually shut the door, but he was in here first.
Yeah.
That it's hard to say who's a surprise, who's overrated, underrated. But who is a guy whose Q rating right now is low that has the potential to go much higher? That floor ceiling right now. Jerry Jeudy's on the bottom. He's on the floor. He is a player as much as anybody on this team, not named Bradley Chubb, who has the ability to really improve their stock.
Yep. God, I hope so. That would be great for this team. But time to step up, buddy. Rookie contributor, I think it's going to be Montrell Washington. He's got the easiest path to the field. Special teams could be some gadget stuff as well, but just even as a returner, punt returner, that could be big for him this year. So I'm going to go with him.
You'd love to say Uzurike. Wouldn't that be a good one to say at the end of the season? We've talked about needing help on the defensive line. He is a big body. He's not ready. He got picked, 5th round. I think was he
fourth round,
5th round, 4th round. Guys with the, oh my God, we got him. Don't do that in the 4th round. They don't last till the 4th round at that size. If they're ready to go right away, you're not getting them in the 4th. So he's a bit of a project. Hopefully you can microwave that development and come last half of the season when they say these guys aren't rookies anymore, he is a different player and he's a difference maker for you. So keep an eye out for Uzurike. Rookie contributor. Are we ready to mothball Dulcich? Because they still talk about him like they want to get him out there as soon as he's ready.
It's hard to say with Dulcich. Just missed so much time. But speaking of the last one here, comeback player of the year. I'm going to go with Bradley Chubb. I think he's in for a big contract. I think he's probably the team's best pass rusher on paper, and he needs to be the comeback player of the year. So I'm going to go with him.
I already told you he wasn't eligible. Yep. He wasn't hurt last year too. Well, I guess he was
hurt
for a while.
Yeah, no, he missed half the season.
That's fine. And he could be. Someone asked in earlier, like as far as like players jumping out and MVPs, it's like who's on a contract year? He is. This is $100 million a year for him. Literally, he could come out of this with $100 million contract.
Yep.
No one has more reason to excel than he does. All of the reason in the world. Boy, I sure hope it's Hamler. I sure hope it's KJ Hamler. That would be just an awesome story. Going back and just replaying some of the stuff he said about being low and ready to take his own life to a certain extent, and to go out there and just see him just succeed. I'm hoping for KJ Hamler.
Yeah, that would be great for him to come out there. So guys, if there's anybody else that we missed, but first Nathan coming in here with the super sticker. It's been a bit since we've had a super sticker. Appreciate you, Nathan, coming in over on YouTube, getting us out of here. And also Andrew Lampy with the stars saying, good morning, fellas. Got a little late this morning, but I will catch what I missed later. Well, make sure you come in and join the chat there. Scott likes to check those after the fact to see if anything, clean up anything or anything else pokes his interest. But we'll see it if you still contribute after the show's over. But we're at 1 hour and 10, so we got to go. Good show today. A lot of fun. Fun topics to talk about, kind of really peel back the onion for our predictions this season. Didn't write these down. Maybe some point we will come back and write it down and see how right or wrong we were. You'll remember?
Yeah. I obsess. I'll remember.
Fair enough. But yeah, we appreciate you guys so much for joining us today. Make sure you're following Scott and I on Twitter. Scott is at Scott Kennedy. I am at Nick Kendell MHH. Also, make sure you're following us at BFB_pod, as well as at Mile High Huddle. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you're joining our Facebook communities at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod. And of course, as the ticker says underneath there, make sure you subscribe, like, and share over on YouTube. Click that bell icon on the page. That way you know when we go live at Mile High Huddle. Because sometimes some guys start a little later. Sometimes we even start a little sooner. So that way you know when we go live, and you can just jump right in and join in the awesome community and conversation that we have in each and every one of these shows. Scott, what's the rest of your day looking like? What's your weekend looking like?
Got to get some work done. I want to cut up a bunch of those videos from the press conference yesterday. Nathaniel Hackett had a lot of news. So if you haven't seen it, I'll make it in bite size for you. And then, the usual double practices with the kids, and then a couple of games this weekend. But otherwise, pretty chill today. Looking forward to the turn of the calendar. It's been a mild August, but I'm ready for some crisp, cool fall weather.
Good stuff. Well, I am on my way to Mount Rainier to do a 30-mile backpacking trip over the weekend. Wish me luck. I'm seasoned now. I'll be okay. But I'm hoping that the weather stays fine. It looks like it's going to be hotter than heck today, and then it's going to get down to like 39 at night on Saturday and Sunday. So, yay, the mountains.
You've got the crisp cool.
Yep, it's coming. But appreciate you guys. We will see you again Scott and I will see you again on Monday morning, first with Forging the Falcons, and then with Broncos for breakfast. We appreciate you all. Thank you so much for the lively conversation today and contributing to the chat. Thank you to everybody who supported us as well with superstars, super stickers, super chats, etc., etc. You guys are great. Have a great weekend. Make sure you choose kindness. Sorry, Jeremy got me here. Go take a hike, Nick. I will. That's a compliment to me. Make sure you guys are choosing kindness and choosing compassion. As always, go Broncos.